Hey guys, welcome back to She Makes 31. In today's video, I am going to be restoring and giving this cabinet a total makeover. It's called a dry sink and it's about 50 years old. So if you want to see how I transform this beautiful piece, then keep on watching. I absolutely love the way it turned out. Alright guys, so these are the supplies that I used for this transformation. I'll link as much of it as I can in the description box. First things first, I cleaned off the surface with just water and a microfiber rag. My original plan was to restore the top here, lots of water stains here. So it's a veneer top, so I wanted to go ahead and strip that so that I didn't have to sand it down too much, because if you sand veneer too much, you might actually sand through it and get into the particle board that's underneath it. So I went ahead and used my stripper for this and put some saran wrap on top of it, and I let it dry for about 20 minutes and scraped it off using my shovel. After this, I got some fine steel wool and scraped off as much as I could of any of the gunk that was left over. And then after that, I took it outside with my mineral spirits and did some more of the steel wool, washing it off with the mineral spirits. I decided to do this 2 times to make sure that all the finish was taken off. Right, so this is what the top looked like after it was stripped, and as you can see, there is some marking still on it. So I decided to use some wood bleach, which is also called oxalic acid, and I coated it with it on the top to remove this. It bleaches the wood and it gets rid of water stains really well. So you mix it with some hot water and you follow the directions on the container and put that on. I used a scrub brush to scrub the wood with it. Unfortunately, I did lose some of that footage, but it is a crystallized powder. You mix it with the hot water. You apply it with a scrub brush, and then after that you rinse it 3 times with water. Okay, so this is what the top looked like after the wood bleach was put on. As you can see, the stains are pretty much gone. The wood hadn't completely dried yet, but I did see a little bit of faint staining, but so much better. And once I put the stain on the top, it actually was pretty much gone. And guys, here's the first step that I did wrong. I used this stainable wood filler to fill in the nail holes, and I'm thinking, all right, I got this done well. I sanded it off. I used my tack cloth to wipe off the sanding dust, and then I got this gel stain that I was going to put on top, and all is looking good. I chose a gel stain because I've heard that it works better with veneer wood. It goes on more evenly. So I wiped it off after it had dried for a couple minutes, and I don't know if you could see there, but these little nail holes were not taking the stain. So I went ahead and started dabbing some of the gel stain on the nail holes to see if the stain would take after a few more coats. It didn't.
So friends, I am not happy about this at all. It ruined my whole entire project. So I did this. I popped it off. It was so easy to take off. I just got like a screwdriver or a flathead screwdriver and just kind of popped it open or popped it up. And yeah, this is really thin piece of wood. So now I'm trying to decide what to do next. Whether to get another piece of wood to just go on top of it, or have this whole thing just come off completely and just replace it with a whole brand new top. I don't know. We'll see where this goes.
So I took my kids and we headed over to the hardware store, and I got some birch veneer plywood to put on top. It's a 1/4 inch, and I had it matched to the size of the other top. And I really should have done this from the start, but I was just really trying to salvage as much as I could from the original piece. But you live and learn, and I wanted to restore that piece of wood so bad, and I was able to. Even though I didn't end up using it, I was able to learn from it. It did cost me more money, but it's all right. I'm not bitter. But anyway, so I went ahead and traced the corners of the other wood onto my new top, and I used my saw to round off the edges. I first cut off a piece, I cut off a piece, a straight edge piece, and then after that I went in with some coarse sandpaper. I used, I believe it was 80 grit was the coarsest I had, and my electric sander, and just started rounding off the edges to match up to my pencil marks. So after I laid it on top, I realized that I needed to round this corner off a little bit more. So I went back with my hacksaw and sawed some more off, and then used the sandpaper again to round it off even more. And friends, before you leave, it would mean so much to me if you would hit that red subscribe button. I am so close to reaching 10,000 subscribers. I can't believe it. So make sure you subscribe before you head out. Alright, so this is what it looked like after I rounded off the edges. I was pleased with my results, and then it was time to sand it off with a finishing sandpaper. I used a 220 to finish off before I stained. So this bottom piece here of the top has a little bit of a beveled edge, so it still had some stain on it. So I went ahead and got a sanding sponge and wrapped it up with my other sanding paper. It was a coarse grit, to get some of that stain that was in the little beveled edges, in the grooves of the wood. So that's definitely a great way to be able to get into little spaces like that. Alright, so next I put my top on, and I just gave it a light sand with some 220 grit sandpaper, and then it was time to stain it. And after that I used some of my tack cloth to get all of the sanding dust off, because that's definitely important before you put stain on. So here I am using some painter's tape to tape off the top. I love the look of like the stained top with the bottom painted furniture, so that's what I was going for this time, and the painter's tape just made sure that the stain did not drip down. I ended up using a different color stain this time around. I used chestnut before, and I really wanted it darker, so I got the walnut color gel stain, which I really liked. And guys, if you don't have any blue shop towels around at home, buy yourself a roll. These are so awesome. They are lint free, and they worked really well when I was staining and working with all these different chemicals. They absorb really well. I used a foam brush to apply the stain and let it sit for about 3 minutes before I wiped off the first coat. Alright, so here's the wood after one coat. I think it's pretty, but I wanted it a little bit darker, so I went ahead and applied a second coat. Alright, so for the bottom half of my furniture piece, I did a quick sanding before I painted. There was a lot of little grooves and just scratches from wear and tear, so I wanted to smooth those out a bit. I didn't want to remove them completely because I feel like it gives the furniture piece some character, so I went ahead and sanded them with 150 grit and ended with a 220 grit before painting. Alright, so then I brought my furniture piece inside and gave it a nice wipe down with some water and microfiber cloth, get all the dust off, and then I removed all of the hardware. I used blue tape or regular tape just to keep the pieces together. So the next step was to put the top on the furniture. I wanted to avoid nails this time around because I did not want to repeat the same thing that happened before. So I used some Gorilla Glue, which is really strong glue, to put the top on, and then I put some weights on top of it to keep it clamped. For this project I used the Deco Art Americana chalk paint in the color Yesteryear. I got this at Michael's and it's a gray color with some blue undertones in it. I also wanted to note that the Gorilla Glue that I used for the veneer top, it actually started to expand as it dried, and so it was starting to kind of bubble up and foam up on the edges. So if you're going to use Gorilla Glue, make sure that you place it far away from the edges so that it doesn't come up. I had to keep on wiping it down with some water. Thankfully, I was able to keep on wiping it enough for it not to show at the end. But yeah, definitely be careful with that. Also, something else that I wanted to mention was chalk paint. So you don't need to prime your surfaces before you chalk paint, which is one of the great benefits of chalk painting, unless you have a really old piece like this one. Some of the tannins show through even after chalk painting it. A lot of the wood furniture cleaners can seep through and make the paint crackle. And if that does happen, you can use some of the Bullseye Spray Shellac. It's a clear shellac spray that you spray on the furniture, and then you can top it with the chalk paint. Now it's very easy to do. You just spray it on and it dries in like a couple of minutes, and then you can keep on working. So the best suggestion I have would be for you to test out a little piece of your furniture and see how well it takes the paint, and then go from there.
Guys, I just put these drawers on just to see what it would look like, and I just totally missed painting this. I don't know why. I thought it was covered, and now I feel super silly that I didn't do it, and I'm just really tired, I guess. So that's what happens when you have 3 kiddos and you're trying to do it all and you miss stuff like that. So now I gotta go in and I gotta paint this strip right here. Okay, so here's what I ended up doing. I ended up taping off where I wanted the paint to go. So now I'm gonna go ahead and paint it.
All right, so I used my sanding block first to go ahead and rough up the edges. I also used my electric sander because that was probably a little bit faster than using the sanding block. And here I'm going to show you how I restored the hardware.
So if you wanted to restore the original hardware, I have a little trick for you here. I'm going to be using some Barkeeper's Friend, and this is works with stainless steel, porcelain, ceramic, copper, brass, all sorts of stuff. I use it around the kitchen for my sink. It works really well, but it also works for your restoring hardware and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and make a paste out of that. So what I'm going to do is put some in here, some powder, And I'm going to create a nice little paste. Okay, and you do want to wear gloves for this. And you're going to go ahead and dip it in there. Get a toothbrush or a soft bristle brush, and you're just going to work it into the knob. Okay, and let's keep brushing at it and getting all the gunk off. Mix this up a bit. And this is a great way to restore the original finish on the hardware. And you can see how it's dark just because it's getting all that grime out. I'm going to go ahead and rinse a little bit and see what it's looking like. So look at that, guys. Look at how this is kind of the same color that it was before, or this is the color that it was before. And now, sorry, this is your color now. So, big difference. Really easy. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and spray paint this hardware. I decided that I like the look of the oil rub bronze best. This is the original color that you see right there, which is nice, but I feel like it doesn't make enough contrast with the gray bluish paint that I have. So I really just am looking for this look. So I'm going to go ahead and spray paint. I got some foam board, and as you can see, that makes it easier to be able to spray paint. You just do it like that. So yeah, I'm going to give this a quick coat. It takes 10 minutes to dry to the touch, and then I'm going to flip over my handles and do the other side.
Alright guys, we are nearing the end. This is the last step. This is the polyurethane that I use. It's a water-based polyurethane, and it's the Varathane brand. You want to make sure you mix this. Don't ever shake this can because you don't want bubbles all over your finish. So make sure you just use a stir stick and mix it really well and apply it either with a brush or a foam brush. I started off with foam brush, but I ended up with a paintbrush, and you'll see why later. Alright, so I was super careful when doing the wood top. I wanted to make sure I got the smoothest finish, so I went very slow, and I made sure I didn't work it too much. You don't want too many brush strokes. At the end, I did like one swipe from left to right and just kept it as smooth as possible, and it's a light coat. I ended up doing 3 coats total. Alright guys, so I did my first coat, and I'm going to go ahead and sand with some very fine 320 grit sandpaper. Just very lightly, just go over it and then do 2 coats, and then after that I will do a 3rd coat on the top. I'm only going to do 2 coats on the rest of the body of the cabinet, and that'll be good for that. But FYI, this has been drying for about 3 hours. Okay guys, so I wanted to show you the reason why I switched from the foam brush to a regular brush. I feel like I couldn't see how this has already been dried, and you can see it yellowed inside the creases because it was like too concentrated here, the polyacrylic. So I feel that with a brush, I'll be better able to get into these like nooks and crannies and be able to brush them out better. That way you don't get the yellowing that can happen when there's too much polyacrylic in one spot. I removed the hardware and I removed the tape, and oh man, here it is guys. I hope that you like it. Let me know what you think in the comments. This top came out so smooth guys. It's beautiful. I just love this piece of furniture. It looks so good to me. There were times where I just wanted to give up because of the challenges that presented themselves, but man, I'm just so glad that I was able to finish this, and now I'm able to enjoy the finished product, and it is so satisfying guys. If this video gave you some motivation or inspiration to redo a piece of furniture in your house, make sure that you give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I would love to have you be a part of my YouTube family. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!